Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me, Robert Phoenix, and I am back. Sorry I'm late tonight. I've just been trying to get everything together for the show. It looks like I'm a little bit of a lag here, but let me see if I can go into YouTube. So it should be up here. Here we go. Right. Okay. Again, thank you for your patience. Um, yeah, I know you were waiting to get on the show. I get it. I totally get it. You were ready. I wasn't ready. I totally get it. So, yeah, Jasper's here with us tonight, and hopefully it'll be worth the wait. Let's put it that way. It'll be worth the wait. So, behind me, as I'm talking tonight, you'll be witnessing scenes from the movie The Battleship Potemkin, which was a film by Sergei Eisenstein, which essentially glamorizes the Russian Revolution and how the Potemkin, which was a battleship, was really the turning point for the Russian Revolution. It has a lot to do with propaganda and war. So I'm going to have this going on in the background for the first hour of the show. Second hour of the show, the visuals will be just a little bit different. So it'll be kind of an interesting, I think, a little bit of an effect here, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely an effect. Jasper is into it. Of course, Jasper would have no problem being a part of any revolution. He might even lead a revolution. Am I right, Jasper? Yeah. So there's an Aries theme tonight. We're going to be getting into an Aries theme. David Palmer, the Leo King. Great show on Friday night. If you haven't watched it, if you haven't seen it, you got to go. Fucking brilliant. One of the best combinations of music, astrology, tarot, insight, and humor. Flat out fucking genius. Go check it out. Great stuff. So we talked a lot about Chiron and Aries, and I'm going to talk about Chiron and Aries as well. And I'm also going to look at where we're headed ultimately in Aries, which is the year 2026, when Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Now, they come together briefly in Pisces, but it's really in Aries where Saturn and Neptune take off, right? So it's Saturn and Aries, and we're going to look at two other Saturn and Aries, well, Saturn and Neptune cycles. Saturn and Aries, Neptune and Aries, 2026. That's 4 years from now. Huge time. Big time, massive time change. We're going to go back to another cycle, another Saturn Neptune cycle, which was in 1989. We're going to look at that tonight. And we're also going to go back to 1917. 2 of the 3 cycles that we're going to be looking at impact Russia. The third, we'll see. So we're going to get into some Aries tonight. I was thinking also after David's show, how in terms of something like propaganda and programming, Aries is a really significant planet, right? Because you have to program the individual. And I was looking at Joseph Goebbels' astrological chart, and we might peek at that tonight because he does have an Aries midheaven. Now, that's the only thing he has in Aries, just the midheaven, but it's enough, right? Because what he wants to do is he wants to go in and program the individual. And that's what's happening right now. We're going through this Chiron and Aries where people are being programmed based on their vulnerability. And I thought David did a great job talking about Chiron, which I've talked about a lot. And what's interesting is that the whole school of evolutionary astrology that comes out of Stephen Forrest and a number of other evolutionary astrologers, they don't use Chiron, which is a shame, because I think Chiron is an important object. So the scene behind me, what's happening here is that the men are pissed off that their meat that they're getting has maggots on it. And they're not getting the same thing that supposedly, the bourgeoisie get. It's kind of like Shannon Sharp, who said today on Twitter that no matter how much, they said, if I pay $20 for a gallon of gas, I'm fine with it because Trump's not in office. And then all these other people lined up and said the same thing. And I thought to myself, well, first of all, fucking Shannon Sharp is worth $15 million. You can afford gas. There's no skin off of his rather large nose. And if you didn't want a gas car, he could buy an electric car. He could afford an electric car. So whatever. I get it, Shannon. You have a massive distaste. And I'm not here to, again, promote Trump. Then all these other people get in. Well, I'm not as famous and rich. See, there's the maggots. See, the maggots are on the meat. Well, little do these fellas know that in 2022 or 2024, you'll be eating the maggots without the meat. Because based on the World Economic Forum, the Bill Gates diet, maggots, I think, are one of the food groups. So these guys are bitching about maggots on the meat. They should fast forward to have the maggots without the meat, or just maggot meat, not meat maggot. So this theoretically is the start of so there's already problems in Russia, but the Potemkin and the Navy was the one thing that supposedly were still behind Nicholas and Alexandra, because the army was all fucking burnt out from World War I. Nicholas still had some people in the armed forces that were the army that were still, for him, but the Navy hadn't been subjected to the same kinds of like toil and rigors. Now there are in World War I, because that was a big ground war, right? So they would provide some support from the sea. That was a huge ground war. So the Navy didn't really take it on the chin as much as, say, the Army. But hey, they're eating maggoty meat, and that's a big deal, I guess. Right. So this is good. So there are also people who are inside of the Russian Royal Navy who are also agents provocateurs. Like, their job is to get the soldiers to revolt, right? Just fucking take the maggots off. Like, throw them in some Coca-Cola or whatever, and cook the damn meat. That's what I think. So we're gonna have a little bit of the battleship Potemkin just kind of rolling on here in the background. I wanted to do something that wasn't astrological and starry in nature, but the second movie is the second movie just showed up. So I might actually change out the movie at some point. And what are they going to do? They're going to fire the maggot meat. Maybe I'll change out the movie. Let's see what else I have here. Let's see what we got. By the way, both of these movies are part of the public domain. Let's do a little space movie. I was waiting for this one to flip. There we go. So this is a Voyage to the Planet of Wild Women. Apparently, now I read that this was a Russian movie, although Mamie Van Doren is in this movie. And Mamie Van Doren is one of these, blonde bombshell sex symbols from Hollywood's heyday of blonde bombshell sex symbols like Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield and maybe Van Doren. So you get to see some Mamie here at the end. In the meantime, we've got a little space action behind me. By the way, another film, public domain. So YouTube, remember that. So we're going to get into some Aries stuff. We're going to get into some programming material tonight. We're going to look at these 3 Saturn cycles so you can understand what happens when Saturn and Neptune come together and systems dissolve. We're going to talk about that. Also, transhumanism, which is a big part of Chiron and Aries. And we'll kind of go down the transhumanist highway and byway tonight. And I do have some clickbait. It's in the title for the show, and that's Will and Jada. We're going to look at Will Smith's chart. We're going to look at Jada Pinkett Smith's chart. We're going to look at their charts together. We'll do a little synastry. We'll do a little midpoint composite. Very interesting, very telling about their relationship. So we're going to get into that. And if time permits, maybe we'll take a peek at Goebbels' chart. And I did find, I think, maybe the most evil chart I've ever run across. And it fits. It fits the persona. And if I have time, I might do the most evil chart that I've ever run across. It might be one of the most evil people, although I didn't know this person, but based on their history and some of the things that they were known for, although some people might not think this person is evil, depending upon what you want to get out of life and a so-called sexual experience. So I think we'll just let this this Mamie Van Doren, you can see. Again, by the way, this is a public domain movie. It's all public domain. I got off the public domain website. Okay. Speaking of public, let's check in with my favorite public, the Republic of Chattaria. Let's see what's going on in your worlds. All right, here we go. There she is, lovely and talented, Joan S. Abella Soul in house, Neo, Beth Berry. There's my man, Steve. What's going on, Steve? Susie Gemini, WC Ray, Blue Monday coming up. I know tomorrow is Blue Monday, right? Benito, what's going on, brother? Michelle on Wheels. Hey, Michelle. Mary Grethler. Hey, it's a Mary sighting. Hi, Mary. How are you? Moonwind 1221 has arrived. Cheyenne Jewel, better late than never. Yep. Well, me for you and vice versa. Thanks for being here. Lisa Dawn T. Seguin checking in. I love that emoji. Cool. Renee is here. M. Kaser. There's Lisa Chambliss. You're late and I'm early. It works somehow. Whimsical Farm Girl checking in from Oregon. There's Shirley Losciavo. I love saying that name. Losciavo. You can almost like make a character out of that. MLMCI, what's going on? Who else have? Solid Behind Blue Eyes. That's a good moniker. There's my man Ryan checking in. Hi, Ryan. Steve Borg, you're here. Your guess. You guess. Well, your guess is as good as mine. Thanks for being here. Bliss Lee, what's going on? Bliss, good to see you. Marty R. Marty will be speaking real soon on the reading side of things. Seer Artist, glad to be here on the Taurus moon. Ah, yes. You know, we worked out in the yard today. We got our hands dirty in the yard, and I'm flirting with a chicken coop. A chicken coop beckoned me. It beckoned me as I was coming out of Tractor Supply. That's a nice chicken coop. It's all assembled and shit. I think I might get it. They even deliver it. I can have the chicken coop assembled and delivered, and I got a place for it. So we could be working with some chickens here pretty darn soon. That'd be cool, right? As long as we can keep the omen cat from hell out of there. Jesus. All right, who else do we have? Let's see who else. Meowgical. There he is. Southwest Florida, real estate with Lewis Walden. If you need a property and you're in Southwest Florida, check in with Lewis Walden. He'll hook you up, and he'll do it via astrology. He'll check in with your stars. He'll line you up with just the right location. Let's see, Carol. What's going on, Carol? Good to see you. Pluto Wilson is here. Arlene Vega and the family. I love that. That's great. Janet Veal. Hi, Janet. It's some new folks, some folks that are, let's see, Clown World. Nobody can read your Cyrillic copyright. That's funny. That's good, Tondar. Heather, KY22. David is a fucking genius. I agree with you 100%. And that, by the way, genius is not a word that I use a lot. I don't throw it around. Let's see, Abel. So if you're awake enough to be with Robert, how could you celebrate the reinstatement of Antichrist Trump? Oh, geez. We got some spitfire and vinegar in the chat room. You know, look, here's the deal. We're going to have to deal with whatever, right? Right. So if Trump is going to be back in office and he's supposedly the Antichrist, then, you know, hey, it is what it is. Bring it on. You know, we got to deal with whatever. So whether Trump's the Antichrist or, you know, Mickey Mouse is the Antichrist or Donald Duck is the Antichrist or Putin is the Antichrist or Caitlyn Jenner is the Antichrist, we're going to have to deal with it. Doesn't matter who's in or who's out. Like this, it'll be some kind of a test. And I'll tell you my insight into the Antichrist, since you're asking. A long time ago, I had a premonition, the vision, as it were, that the Antichrist wasn't really a person, but it was an energy. And I know a lot of you have already tapped into that. But I tapped into this back in 1986, maybe. And I remember just having that feeling like, okay, this is not a person. The Antichrist is already here, right? Just walk around, go outside, and just feel it. Does it feel normal to you? Does the world feel normal? Does the world feel like it was the same world that you experienced 15 years ago? The answer to that for me is no, it's not. And I don't think it's really an improvement, to be honest with you. And so this is my experience of the world. My experience of the world is that it feels as if positive energy has been sucked out of our magnetosphere, right? Whatever the etheric band that is encircling this domain, it feels as though the positive energy has been sucked out of it, and we're dealing with something that's vastly more negative. And I feel it. I feel like there's this raw, unrelenting kind of frequency, for lack of a better term, that's out there. It's just out there. And maybe sometimes early in the morning or sometimes late at night when nobody's buzzing and, you know, engaged in their world, you can feel something different. So I think that the energy of the Antichrist is already here. I mean, just look around, like tune into a school board meeting. What are you going to see? You're going to see, you know, anti-Christian material. I mean, that's what Antichrist means. It's anti-Christian. And you're going to see that material. You're going to see it talked about. You're going to hear it talked about. And that's just in the air. Like, go to Florida and this whole thing with Florida and Disney. And even though that the water on the pot is boiling and the frogs are getting used to it, like every now and then it goes up a few degrees. And then it goes, like, what the hell is that? And that video from that Zoom video, it was not only was it cringy, but you're getting an insight into not just Disney, but any number of corporations. And I'm going to use two words here. The first word is infiltrate. That's the first word, is infiltrate. And then the second word that I would use would be indoctrinate. So once you get somebody in who's literally infiltrated, their goal is indoctrination. And the first people that they're to indoctrinate are the people around them. The next group to get indoctrinated are the people outside the corporation. If indeed they have some kind of a public offering, whether it's a TV show or a pair of sneakers or whatever that thing is, right? So the infiltration occurs, then the indoctrination occurs. And just watch that video. If you don't think that the spirit of the Antichrist is in the air and bouncing off of us with whatever kinds of electrons and protons that are dancing around in our atmosphere, you're probably asleep. You're just probably asleep, and maybe that's a better thing. I'm not gonna weigh in on that. So the Antichrist is here. The energy of the Antichrist is here. It's already here. And whether it becomes manifest in one individual or multiple individuals, that's really just the materialization or the manifestation of the energy itself. It's already here. That's why everything's turned upside down. And that's why there's so much chaos. Because that's what the Antichrist feeds off of. It's not the chaos or the upside down nature. It is the chaos of the people that are engaged in the world in their inverted relationship to everything. Well, that's just, that's a happy meal. That is a louche happy meal. So you've got to figure out, everybody here who's watching this has to figure out how they are going to get through this time. Well, this energy is very pervasive. And it's been pervasive for a while. I think for me, I'd have to go back a ways. And I think something really fundamentally changed on 9/11/2001. Something, and I've done SCAZA shows on the Twin Towers and the whole Gemini ritual associated with the Twin Towers. We've looked at the astrology ad infinitum. We've looked at all the Gemini players, from Larry Silverstein to Rudy Giuliani to Donald Trump to George Bush Sr., right, to the CIA, to John F. Kennedy. I mean, they're all Geminis, all Geminis. So I think even George Bush, what is he? He's a Leo rising, I think. George Bush Jr. Cancer sun, 12th house sun. What a weirdo. Total weirdo. So something fundamentally changed on 9/11/2001. It was a magical, dark, magical, occult operation ritual. That's what it was. And everything got atomized. There was this atomization, and the crime of the century, literally, because it happens in 2001, the crime of the century are the people that got away with it. That's the crime of the century. Because the guys with the box cutters and shit, or the guys that are in Gitmo, no, they're just the patsies. So something fundamentally changed after that day. Things have not been the same. And not only that, they've gotten progressively worse energetically, in my opinion. Hands down, bar none, just energetically worse. Now, when we move into this major Aries time shift in 2026, it feels to me like we'll be really confronted with this energy that I'm talking about. And even before then, we'll go through the next great American eclipse, which will take place in Aries and come right up from Mexico and, parallel the Mississippi River. Are they underwater? For a minute there, they look like they're underwater. I love these spacesuits. I think they're fighting some kind of a monster on Venus. So this takes place on Venus, by the way. Where do you see Mamie Van Doren? She's the queen of Venus. Boy, they got there fast. Uh-oh, watch out. Man, they got some pretty latexy monsters on Venus. So the energy of the Antichrist is here. It's just how and where it manifests and who it manifests with. And to deal with that energy, you got to be pretty grounded and not give in. I think the hard part with this Antichrist energy is to give in to some level of retribution. I think that's a hard thing right now, because everything is geared towards some level of retribution, and it's getting amped up, and people are just dying, literally dying, to have some form of retribution. And by the way, it's not just any one group. Like, it's floating out there. It's like this free floating egregore, and it just comes right into somebody who is not aware. Like, Will Smith is one of those people. We'll get into Will Smith tonight. Whatever you think of what happened. So now he had to step down from the Oscars, and Netflix kicked him off. I guess, what did you have? Some kind of a reality show or something on Netflix? And they 86'd his ass. So Will Smith is going through some form of retribution, public humiliation ritual. Right? And what did he do? He gave into that Antichrist moment. Whether you think it's staged or not, I think some of it was. I don't think all of it was. I think he, surprised the shit out of Chris Rock when he did slap him. I think he was supposed to do something. I think that was probably part of the story, but I'm not sure he was supposed to, go flesh to flesh. And some people say, oh, he had a man. Chris Rock seemed shook. He seemed shook after the whole thing. To me, that's what he seemed like. He couldn't hold it together, right? He couldn't keep it together. And then when Will Smith started barking at him, and we say, fuck and shit, and we curse on these shows, and that can be very therapeutic. Some blue language in the right moment can be very therapeutic. People can laugh, right? It kind of punctuates the moment. But the way Will Smith did it in that moment was a curse. It was like, what is fuck? It's a curse word. So with his anger and his emotion, because he was angry, he was angry, and I think something snapped in him. So when a person does something like what he did, it's like putting a curse on Chris Rock. And what happened? It boomeranged back at him. So if you want to steer clear of the Antichrist, just watch what Will Smith did in that. He was telling you how to stay out of the clutches of the Antichrist. That's exactly what he was telling you to do. You don't participate at that level. And it's challenging because everybody's a high tension wire right now. So when people are pushed to the edge, right, they snap. And that's what Will Smith theoretically did. So we're going to get into some of this Aries energy, and especially with Chiron, because I really feel like when what we're doing here with Chiron, especially, when we get into the Saturn Neptune conjunction up in 2026, we're redefining what it is to be a human. Aries isn't just male energy, it's human energy. In the Garden of Eden, first there was Adam, Then there was Eve, theoretically, right? Adam and Eve. And what were they? They were pure, undifferentiated energy. Pure, undifferentiated energy. They didn't know any better, right? They didn't know any better. They were blissfully unaware of anything else in the garden except for themselves and God. That is Aries, by the way. That is the energy of Aries. You go back to the Garden of Eden, it is Aries energy. There is no differentiation. Adam and Eve are one with God. Now, we could go into the whole Gnostic thing if you want to, but we're not going to do that tonight, at least not right now. We're gonna stay with the biblical story. So what happens? Well, the snake, the serpent, enters into their reality. Where does the serpent come from? Does it come from Nibiru, Sirius? Or maybe the serpent comes from what? How about the eighth house? And Jasper said, yeah, Scorpio, coming down through the chart into Taurus. Because what happens with Taurus? Adam and Eve understand that they are no longer alone. The kind of blissful, undifferentiated will and oneness with one another and God is disrupted. And it's disrupted by Eve eating the fruit. Where do we get fruit? How about Taurus? Second house. And who's telling her to eat that fruit? A little snake coming down from the eighth house, Scorpio's house. Let's go on. Have a bite. It's really good. You'll like it. And this is what happens. So the theoretical fall in the zodiac happens from Aries to Taurus. And Taurus is where we become aware of our physical surroundings. The biological correlation for this is that when you are born as a little being, right, you are purely Aries. You cry, you laugh, you babble, you shit and you piss, and you don't think about it because somebody else is going to take care of it for you. And somebody's going to feed you, right? So that's kind of like this undifferentiated state of consciousness. That's who you are. And your parents are God because they're providing for everything, right? Theoretically. And then what happens? Well, at a certain point in time, you have to learn how to, guess what, clench your bowels. You have to be toilet trained. And when that happens, you are no longer in that place of just, I'm going to laugh and cry and giggle and stick my tongue out and shit and piss whenever I want. Now now I have a contract. Now contract literally is about contracting. And that's what happens. And that's when people move away from that undifferentiated state of consciousness, which is pure Aries. So Aries is humanity in the most fundamental sense in terms of how you incarnate and then your sphere of activity until you learn, how to become toilet trained. And that's when everything changes, plain and simple. And if you look back at the biblical story takes place in the Garden of Eden. It's Aries. There's no awareness because that's how Aries operates. Not to say that people who are Aries don't have any awareness. They do. It's a different kind of awareness. It is a self-generated awareness. And then what happens? Well, then we have temptation coming from the eighth house into the second house. The second house, we have the fruit, Taurus, and then what happens then? We move into Gemini. Gemini splits, right? And then you have the children of Adam and Eve, Abel and Cain, who are both Gemini. Well, they're twins, right? Theoretically, they're brothers. You get into the whole Gemini thing. And then one of them kills the other. So you can actually see the biblical parallels, going all the way through the Bible. It's there. I mean, there's a whole thing, astrotheology, right? But those are three kind of fundamental pieces of the story. And Gemini is a pretty big split, right? It's a pretty big split because there's Cain and Abel back there. They're going at it. Oh, look at that monster. Venus looks a lot like something that's underwater. They're all in water anyway. Okay. Let's get into the show a little bit more here, because we are going to talk about Aries tonight and where we are with a lot of this Aries stuff. Let's get into the chart of the moment. Let's do that. Let's see where we are. By the way, thank you everybody for being here tonight. Appreciate it. Thanks for showing up, coming out. That's for Oregon. I got to change this. Give me 1 second. Won't take me long at all. Yeah, chickens. Chickens can be really good, I think. Get some eggs. There we go. I love fresh eggs. They're so good. I want to get a duck. Apparently duck eggs. Well, not apparently. I've had them. In fact, I had one today. It was really good. Okay. There we go. All right. There we go. Yes, we have the moon. And we're just coming off that Aries new moon. I felt a lot of energy this weekend. It's like, I'm ready for projects. And we went out and we did some things in the yard today. It was cool. It was good. You know, cleared away some shrub, watered some trees, went down the old Tractor Supply, got me some hoses, looked at the chicken coop. And of course, the bluebonnets are blooming here, so it does feel like spring. Finally, bluebonnets. If you're not from Texas, the bluebonnet is a big deal. It's bluebonnet time. So here we go. There's old Chiron, and the new moon was on Chiron on Friday night. And this will be, according to David, the last new moon in Aries before everything goes haywire with a lot of these retrogrades. And that's absolutely true. And whenever you have these transits, you know, like the moon conjuncting Chiron, and especially when it's new, right? You get to enter into areas where you get to face your shit. And this whole Chiron and Aries transit is really forcing people to be more direct and stand. You know what's really interesting? I'm going to share this with you. Right? If you go back, my experience with Chiron and Aries in a public setting has been a lot of Gen X women, and particularly mothers, standing up in these school board meetings. If you go back and you look at where, you know, Chiron is in Aries, like I think it starts there in 1968, and it's about another 7-year cycle. So anybody from 68 to around 75 has Chiron in Aries. I don't know. Chiron has a weird cycle. It's not, we know it's a 50-year cycle, but it doesn't share the same number of degrees per sign. So some Chiron cycles are actually pretty short, and other Chiron cycles are longer. The one we're in is a longer cycle. So if you go back and look at from basically 68 to say 75, you'll find a lot of women and men, obviously, with Chiron and Aries. Some of them have Saturn in Aries, born during that time. You'll find Saturn and Aries around 1970, if I'm not mistaken, 69, 70. right around there. Because there was that Chiron Saturn conjunction in Pisces in, I think it might have been 1969. So 1970, they move. Like people have that Chiron, I think it's like 67 through 69. The Saturn Chiron conjunction in Pisces. That's a strange conjunction. A lot of people who have that conjunction have health issues, which I've noticed. Anyway, Chiron and Aries. So, and I've talked about this before. For women who have Chiron and Aries, they have to suppress their masculine nature, whatever that is. This is what happens because Chiron is the wound. And again, if you look at that time period, yeah, maybe you had some liberated mothers, whatever, but there were a lot of pretty traditional people, even Gen X, the boomers who we have determined are the parents of Gen X. Some of them were very traditional and had some traditional values, right? So if you're a young woman with Chiron and Aries, what happens? If you display your masculine energy, in some cases, they'll tell you to put a lid on it, right? Put a lid on it. We don't do that. We don't act that way, or that's not how a lady acts, or whatever those kind of social cues are. So women who have Chiron and Aries, what do? Well, oh, gee, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't be so outspoken, or maybe I shouldn't be such a tomboy, whatever that thing is. And then when people can't really reconcile Chiron, what do? I've talked about this bit before. They go to the opposite sign. Well, I'll figure out how to get along. I'll figure out where I fit. I'll be a facilitator. But then they already kind of know what's happening and they know what to do. So that doesn't really work. That's not a very favorable position or role to play because they're not really directly dealing with Chiron. So eventually life will spit them out and put them back into that Chiron position. And what happens, people who have Chiron and Aries will try to find a relationship in order to either have somebody else do the Chiron thing for them. Like if it's a man, you do the Chiron thing, right? That can be what happens. Does that always work? The answer to that is no, not always. I'm seeing a very bright light in the distance here. What is this? I'm going to track this light for a minute. All right, it's coming down the road. This is a very bright light. Okay. All right. Just want to track that. So now, that's Mimi Van Doren, by the way. So now what happens? Well, the relationship isn't as satisfying. And maybe that person that you thought was supposed to protect you or, quote unquote, be the man isn't really doing that thing. Right. Let's say you get a divorce. Well, then you're back into Chiron and Aries. And this is what happens. So you see these women who are Gen Xers with Chiron and Aries. And now guess what they get to deal with, right? They get to deal with their Chiron return at 50. And I guarantee you a lot of these women are at these city council meetings or they're at these school board meetings. See, there we go. Chiron and Aries right there. Here they come. Right. The armies of Venus. I love this. This is great. We got a Chiron. We got a Mars Venus thing going on here. See, there's Mars right there. These are these hapless Mars space losers. And then they're about to be confronted by Venus. It's the Mars-Venus conjunction. The celluloid Mars-Venus conjunction. Anyway, this is who I'm seeing now. So this is the Chiron and Aries moment for Gen X moms. This is the Chiron and Aries moment. They're out there and they're kicking ass. They're whooping ass in these school board meetings. I've seen it. I've been watching them. And what about Chiron and Aries for Gen X men? Well, it's a little bit different, right? So for a woman with Chiron and Aries, she's having to suppress the male energy. Because if she doesn't, she'll be what? She'll be judged for it. So that's her wound. Her wound is suppression and independence and actualization. For the men of Generation X or Gen X, Chiron and Aries is supposed to draw them out, right? To draw them out and be more of a man. And again, who did we see kind of rise through Chiron and Aries? We saw the rise of the metrosexual, Johnny Depp, perfect Chiron and Aries character. And there's more. He's just off the top of my head. Right. So they're supposed to, again, what do? Right. If they've got Chiron, they do the same thing that women do. Well, I can't go there. I can't deal with my Chiron energy. So I'm going to have a relationship. And this is really what is sort of the keynote of Gen X along with Pluto and Libra, is this idea that they want to somehow balance, at least the first stage of Gen X, right? They want to balance their relationship with Chiron by finding a relationship and a partnership. In some ways, there's nothing wrong with that. But now men who are going through their Chiron return are really having to re-examine a lot of their own beliefs around being a man and how they're supposed to, manifest that into the world. And if they have been absent or missing in action, AWOL or missing in action, it'll be it's challenging, right? They have to really look at, well, what's been my role? What has been my role in what's happened culturally? How did I stand by and let this happen? It's a big, I think we could all probably ask ourselves that question, by the way, not just Gen X men who have Chiron and Aries. It's something we all have to answer to the best of our ability. And even now, right, the whole idea around, being a man and suppressing that energy, because what do we have? We've got like toxic masculinity. That is a Chiron and Aries theme. And shaming people for toxic masculinity. Also, when you look at the word Aries, right, it's connected to Aryan. And there's this whole Nazi thing going on, Nazi this, Nazi that. That's another Chiron and Aries trope. If you're somebody who's opinionated and doesn't go along with the party politic, guess what? You're a fucking Nazi. Antifa. What does Antifa stand for? Anti-fascist. Who do we always assume the fascists are? It's the Nazis. When did Antifa start rearing its ugly head? Chiron and Aries. So here we are, and we're trying to work this out on an individual level and a collective level. I have Chiron in opposition with Mercury and Venus in my chart right now, and squaring Saturn. It's been an interesting Chiron time, because sometimes I have to watch what I say. Not here per se, but yeah, I have to watch what I say, because sometimes people take it the wrong way. It's weird. It's weird with this Chiron transit, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I got into a text with somebody on Twitter, and it was kind of just a not this is a text, private text, and it wasn't anything like heavy, although there were some interesting things, and I knew if I was going to talk about the next thing, it would take me a while, and like I would have to have like 5 or 6 more texts. And I didn't want to go there, right? Because I had things to do. And so I politely said, there's, this, and this, but, I'll save the rest for another time. And this person whom I don't really know, but seems like an okay person, like, well, what side of the bed did you wake up on this morning? This is, what they said. I'm like, okay, somebody's misconstruing my communication here. So then I had to lay it out a little bit. One text, another message, another, and we sorted it out, right? It got sorted out. So that's kind of what I'm dealing with my Chiron transit. And Chiron's been going retrograde a lot. So it's going to be in this position. Oh, look at these monsters. It's going to be in this position for me for a while, to the end of the year. So I'm having to really look at how I speak with people and also listen as well. And so I'm working on those things. But we're all dealing with Chiron, and collectively, we're into this whole dialogue about like Leah Thomas, William Thomas. The guy is, hasn't clipped anything. And, he's identified and he's got a few hormone zappers going on, but he's had a whole life of training and muscle development, right? That's a whole Chiron and Aries thing, because what they're doing is they're taking this idea of the individual, humanity. Remember, Aries is humanity. That's what Aries is. It's humanity. When we come into the body, we're Aries. We're undifferentiated. We're undifferentiated aspects of the will of God. Now they come in and say, okay, well, guess what? We're going to change the definition of what a human is. It's exactly what they're doing. We're going to change the definition of what a human is. And it starts with Leah Thomas. Well, that's a man. That's a woman. Did you know that? That's a woman. And when we get into this whole like language of identity, which can get taken out to its most bizarre fucking extremes, okay? Ultimately, it's a major tool of confusion. And it turns people into like these robots, really, who are living a very subjective universe. There is no objective I, me, he, she. Now, in a weird way, right? In a weird way, theoretically, that is Aries, because we're all undifferentiated. In a weird way, that it's like they're kind of getting at something. But the way that they're getting at it is it's synthetic. It's synthetic and it's programmed. So instead of saying we're all one, right? We're all one, and we're going to try to understand what that oneness means. That and they are saying that, well, we've got all these different, versions of gender, and that makes us all very interesting and unique. Ah, the poor monster got it. The poor, like it's like they're pet pterodactyl. Like those fucking men with their space lasers, man. What did they shoot this like somewhere in La Jolla or something? I think there's a cave in La Jolla too. Maybe they did shoot this in La Jolla. Those men in their space guns, man. Anyway, but this is what's going on. And so in a weird way, in the simulacra, they are getting to this idea, they being the people that are into intersectionality, wokeism, right? The lexicon of identity. They're actually talking about spiritual concepts. But the problem is that they're the ones that are playing God, right? They're the ones that are determining, what is the specific and correct use of a pronoun. And that's really a stepped down and very inferior version of oneness. It's sort of like an infant, trying to establish its connection amongst the complexity and the multitude of human experience. That's what it is. So in order to simplify it, we'll have 56 versions of identity. In order to simplify it. Versus having one or two versions of identity and having a vast multitude of the experiential model, right? That people could experience any number of things, whatever they are. Instead of having 56 versions of identity and growing and having the multitude of experience somehow be kludged onto those various labels and identity. It's kind of backwards, actually. And it feels like a very mundane attempt at trying to create a nomenclature for the infinite, right? The diversity of the infinite, in which there is no real language for. So they're struggling to come up with these pronouns that begin to approximate, like the 500 names of God. And that's what's going on. And it seems very childlike in a lot of ways. Although I understand, in some ways, I understand the intent, even if it's the unspoken or the unrealized intent. It's like the secularized intent. It's the secularized humanistic intent to create as much expansive room inside of an identity as possible. All you got to do is take some mushrooms and go read Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. That's all you got to do. Trust me on this. So this Chiron transit is significant because it's the battleground of the human identity. And it's a precursor to where we're going ultimately with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. And everything that is trans is a stepping stone for transhumanism. I've been talking about this shit since 2009, 2010. Like in some ways, I don't even feel like I should need to talk about it. But for a lot of people, because sometimes I forget that there are people that are kind of new on the train, right? And I don't always just want to assume that everybody knows what I'm talking about or what other people are talking about. But this is the stepping stone. They're really creating the fundamental breakdown of what it is to be a human. This is what they're orchestrating so that they can introduce the new human, the transhuman. And they're going to have to come up with a language for that, right? What's going on here? Are they naked? I might have to go back and see this. I did put for children only, or not for children, but children. No, I didn't do that. Mimi Van Doren is one of those blondes. Anyway, this Chiron piece that we're in right now, and it's moved into, guess what? Second decan Chiron. It's been there for a little bit. So it's in the Leo decan of Chiron. So everything is dramatic. Everything is dramatic. And how did we experience this? Well, William/Leah Thomas, swimming for the gold, right? What is gold? Gold is a symbol of Leo, the sun. So you're in the Leo decan when this thing is being talked about in terms of like first place and getting the gold ribbon, the gold medal, whatever it is. And this is where we are now. Also, we're dealing with children. Oh yeah. Hello, Disney, second decan of Aries. And look, we've all known that Disney has been on the twisted side for a while. I could show you stills from The Lion King that make you blush, okay? So we know that this shit has been going on for a while with Disney. It's always been covert. Now it's overt. Now it's all out in the open. And they are there to transmodify your children by giving them as many characters that fit their for lack of a better term, agenda, because there's a woman in that meeting who clearly states, my gay agenda. She talks about it. I'm not, there's a fact checker out there. Go check it out. Right. I'm not saying anything that woman hasn't said or shared on that video. So there's an agenda afoot. They want to turn as many of your children into transmogrified beings. They're getting them seasoned for the transhumanist harvest. That's what's going on here. And these people, I don't even think they know, right? I don't even think they know. All they know is that they have to do this, number one, for their ESG score. That's really important, or else their funding will get shut down and they'll be shit out of luck, right? So they know that they have to do that. That's important. That's number one. Number two, they also have, I think, some kind of compact or an agreement that they have to do it. Now, whether or not it's an overt agreement, it's a whole other thing. Right? The compact or agreement might be one that just exists on the spirit plane. And people get drawn into contracts and agreements without even recognizing it. They may think that they're really independent. And look at me, I'm smashing all of these very, tried and true conservative L7 values. And that's my appointed role. My appointed role is to smash as much as this culture as possible, right? And they think that that's their idea, that is their mission. And they're there to break as much of this down as possible. But is it really their idea? Is it really their mission? Or have they consented to be the willing partner of some other ideology, force, or spirit, right? Because that's the other side of Chiron and Aries. It's Libra, it's agreement. So we're seeing this now. And the other thing too, and this is something that's really important, is the South Node, right? So here's the true node in Taurus. The South Node is in Scorpio. And what are we seeing with the South Node? We're seeing things come up, right? We're seeing what's behind the scenes at Disney. I talked about this. I said, we're going to witness this South Node energy where this shit is going to come up from beneath us. Literally, it will crawl. It will crawl out of, like, the sewers, the grates to the sewers, and it literally is going to happen like that. And we're going to be able to see this now, and because we're so what are we at 22? So at 21. So right now it looks like it's going to go to 21, right? 21 Scorpio. So it's really moving into the second decan, right? It's gonna be the second decan because it's starting. Actually, it's on the third. Let's see. So the third decan of Scorpio is the Cancerian decan. So it's moving into the Piscean decan, right? What do these blonde women just walk around like that for the whole movie? Is that what they're paid to do? They probably get paid very much. But that's all they seem to do is just walk around. And I think they're wearing bikini bottoms that look like they're tan or something. Yeah, it's like they're little puka shell tops there. Anyway, yeah, so it starts off in the Cancerian decan, right? Because that's the third decan for Scorpio. So this would be first decan, second decan, third decan right there. So now it's about to go into the Piscean decan. And what we've seen here ever since the South Node went into Scorpio is what Cancerian shit, like home stuff, schools, mothers, parents, and they're seeing what's going on. The eruption of the unseemly effluvia that's bubbling up from schools and to some degree city councils, right? Moms got involved. That's that Chiron and Aries. The Gen X moms said, fuck that. Fuck that. I'm not letting this happen. Look at this fire. That was the Gen X moms. They were on fire. So now that South Node is getting ready to move into the second decan, which is the Piscean decan. Hello, Disney. That's Disney shit, right? That's what Disney does. It makes movies. Pisces rules movies. So we're going to see. And what about Will Smith? He's a movie star. The Oscars. And we're going to see unseemly stuff start to gurgle and bubble up. It's going to happen. It's going to come out. And then the big question is what are people going to do about it? Because they're hoping that it all just kind of blows away and then becomes normalized. See, where it's the method of revelation, right? It's a revelation of the method. This is what's happening. The exteriorization is taking place, and they want to normalize things. That's exactly what they want to do. That's South Node in Scorpio. The revelation of the method. The externalization of the hierarchy. It's the same thing. A little bit different, actually, but externalization of the hierarchy. The hierarchy, theoretically, the externalization of the hierarchy comes out of Alice Bailey and the Lucis Trust. But there are more than one hierarchy, right? So externalization of the hierarchy is supposed to be the externalization of the Great White Brotherhood, the Ascended Masters, who now become known to humanity, and humanity understands that the Ascended Masters play a role in the functioning of the physical world by stepping down these various rays of vibration and creation. But the externalization of the hierarchy, as it relates to what we're talking about in earthly terms, is the externalization of power behind the scenes. And the revelation of the method is something that exposes it, right? So now we have that South Node in Scorpio. It's going to be there for a while in the Piscean decan. So anything associated with movies and Hollywood, drugs, by the way, are another component here. And I'm sure that we'll get a heavy dose of the carjack scenario. Remember, this is death too, right? The South Node is death. I talked about this last week. In Scorpio, it's death. And it's not like people have stopped dropping like flies just because there hasn't been a real rush to make sure that people, get their fourth and fifth carjack. They are. So again, we're dealing with this stuff too. It's like the 12th house leaving the chart and moving out of the chart. That's happening. So to me, these are the real big movers and the shakers astrologically. Yeah, we've got Mars coming up here, going to be conjuncting Saturn in the next couple of days. That's, Mars Saturn transits can be challenging, really, really challenging. And then we're kind of getting into the grind. Well, it's sort of past the moon, right? But Mars Saturn conjunction, and then the South Node is over here, so that's squaring the South Node. Monday should be a pretty intense day. I do like the Taurus moon on Monday. It's a pretty solid moon. We're coming up here on the Jupiter Neptune conjunction. When does that happen? I think it's Tuesday. Is that right? That'll be interesting. That'll be very interesting. I think we could get into some very, very deep portals of illusion with the Jupiter Neptune conjunction. Now the moon is in sextile here. Yeah, that's nice, right? It's you can take a nice time out in nature and kind of connect with nature a little bit here, maybe over the course of the next 24 hours. Because once that moon goes into Gemini, 2 days from now, look out, because it's going to start to square Jupiter Neptune. And that's going to be, that's weird shit. when you have the moon in Gemini squaring Jupiter, Neptune, you've got duality playing on people's emotions. And then you have this kind of massive illusion. Let's be everything now that we've got this conjunction with Jupiter, Neptune, the phases of the moon are going to be really interesting to watch. Like by Tuesday, when the moon begins to enter Gemini, and we're there for what, Tuesday, Wednesday, that 48-hour period when this bifurcation of emotions and everybody's trying to be heady about their emotions and communicate what's going on, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be very, very difficult to try to communicate through that. And then when the moon moves into Cancer, what's that going to be? Like Tuesday, like was it Thursday? I don't have it in front of me, but Thursday, Friday. Now you have the moon in a harmonic angle. So it's quite interesting, right? Because here it's in sextile. So tomorrow could be an interesting day. If you could take tomorrow off, which I am, by the way, I am going to take tomorrow off. If you could take tomorrow, not just from the show, because I've got too much work to do. I got to catch up on a bunch of stuff. But if you could take tomorrow off, tomorrow's a great day to get out. Like call in sick. But don't say you have symptoms. But if you could take a day off tomorrow, do it. Go out in nature. It's springtime. We got this nice moon, Jupiter, Neptune sextile. Go outside tonight. Go look at the stars. When I'm done, of course. Put your feet on the ground, right? Connect with the earth. Connect with something that's kind of stable. Even though the earth has been, the poor earth, I mean, the earth will be fine. It'll get through it. It has, it will. But, this poor earth has been hit recently with all these fucking particulates from, the barium and the aluminum and the manganese and all this shit, all the chaff from the sky. Like the earth has been taking this stuff on hardcore since 1996. I'm talking hardcore, right? And then we've got these frequencies and it's all permeating into the water, into the soil, so it's changing the magnetics, the magnetic structure of the earth is being changed a little bit here artificially. It's being altered. Okay. So sometimes it's hard to connect in with the old energy of the earth because it's being mediated and they're turning into a synthetic realm. This is what's happening. And everybody has some of that in them too. And so we get into these frequencies, we get into these tones, and it can ping us and bang us around a little bit, but you can still find some deep nature and you can still find a connection with the earth and the ground. So Monday could be a really good day for that if you can take it off. Soak it up because Tuesday things get weird. I think things get really weird on Tuesday. And, I could see where, especially for Gemini people. So here, I think now we're in kind of this mutable sign zone where everything's amplified for the mutable signs. So the fixed signs have been getting it big time. Leo, Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, this whole fixed sign symphony has been really banging on a lot of the fixed sign people. Now I think the mutable people are going to get kind of a wacky dose here with this Jupiter Neptune conjunction. So when the moon moves into Gemini, it's moving into that mutable phase or the mutable sign of the moon. And it could be one of those things where people are just really split again. Like, one side is really into this thing and the other side is really into this thing. And this miasma of information and, sort of the fiction of reality, which I think will be pumped up here with the Jupiter Neptune conjunction, gets really, that's the word I'm looking for, tweaked with this Gemini moon. Is really tweaked because it's, we're in this first quarter phase and this is just happening. This conjunction is just happening. So it's all fresh, right? It's all like bang on. And we're looking at really the exact conjunction coming up on Tuesday, Wednesday. So the other thing too is Gemini is a young sign, right? It's part of that first quadrant. So it does represent kind of, especially with the moon, young feelings. And here, even in the first quarter, the feelings are young, right? The moon has just been reborn and it's forming itself. It's forming itself. And it's really in the first quarter of the moon, or it's in the first quarter of the zodiac, right? Because the moon is new here with, it's the birth of the astrological new year. So when the moon moves into first quarter Gemini, right? It's really the first quarter of the astrological new year as well. So there's a lot of potency to the moon during this phase, during this cycle, because it will mirror or mimic every sign along the way. And it's in some ways in its most potent form, even though we know that the new moon in Gemini is supposed to be, the fertile bed of what that is. But this is a very interesting cycle of the moon. When the moon moves into, we get into a Virgo here, right? So we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4 moon cycles away, 4 moon phases away. So that's 48 hours, right? So that's 4 times 2 is about 8 days away. That's going to be weird too, right? All the mutability here in this cycle, starting here, here, and here. The Virgo full moon is like pulling back and looking at, really? Like, what the fuck? It's like a what the fuck moon in opposition to this. And some people may not like it, right? Some people may like, don't be so critical. Don't be so judgmental. Just kind of go with it. That's not what the Virgo moon does. So on the plus side, this Jupiter Neptune conjunction could provide people with more of a sense of oneness and more of a sense of feeling connected to the ocean, right? The ocean of divinity, right? The great cosmic ocean. That's part of it. The other part of it is a lot more illusion. So when the moon is in Gemini, it's like, Virgo, it's like, do you want to break the spell or do you just want to go with it? And then when the moon comes along into Sagittarius, it completes this cycle with these 4 beautiful phases. And here it's into it's headed towards this balsamic phase, right? It's coming off of, this oppositional, which is not really the full moon, but it's full in opposition to Jupiter. And here it's in the waxing phase anyway, right? So it would be coming off of the full moon in Libra, but we're really clocking its relationship with Jupiter Neptune. And this is the disillusionment of truth. Right here with Gemini, we're sort of willing to kind of not look at certain things. We'll look the other way with Gemini versus the way that we really should be looking at, because it will pierce the illusion. In Virgo, it does pierce the illusion. Virgo is detached and looking at what's going on. It's like, what the fuck? Right? And that could be ostracizing. And then when it comes around to Sagittarius, like, there is a truth here that we have to adjust. But by this time, the moon has gone through all these cycles and phases. So are people going to be ready to experience that? Right? The emotional honesty of the moon in Sagittarius. This is an interesting cycle we're in. I would say by and large for this week, Monday, if you can take the day off, do it. Because once you get past Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, things really take off. And we get into this mutability, it's going to be cuckoo. And then you've got the Mars-Saturn conjunction going on. To me, that's tyrannical. The Mars-Saturn conjunction is tyrannical. Now, part of it could be expressed in your own desire to be sovereign, right? Like, nobody's going to tell me what to do. I'm going to find my own unique expression with Mars and Aquarius, and I'm going to do it. The downside of that is Mars Saturn to me is fascism. It's fascism. And it's using the media in order to drill that home. So Monday, very interesting day. Try to take it off, connect with connect with the earth a little bit, because Tuesday things really are really, it's really a real, I think the movie's already done. I'm have to replay it. It'll replay automatically. Just in case you missed while I was talking. All right, let's get out of here. There's Mamie. I think she was Bo Bolensky's girlfriend. Their poor little T-Rexy. Look at that. Fucking animal cruelty, even on Venus. Venus is wet. Look at these guys. Dudes, you blew it, man. You could have been up there with these Venusian goddesses. You killed their pet. And now you got to go back to Earth. Yeah, like, yeah, I know. They've even got their helmets on inside the spaceship. Those guys are anal. And there's your moon in Virgo right there. Okay. By the way, I am not dissing anybody with the moon in Virgo. It plays a vital function, just as every planet and every sign does. Let's get into some Will Smith territory, shall we? Let's do a little Will Smith. Let's get the star porn clickbait up front. I'm not going to keep you around for. So if you're here for the star porn clickbait, I'm going to deliver. Why don't we take a look at Mr. Smith's chart? There he is. Gemini rising. Black Moon Lilith on the ascendant. Interesting. One of the things that came up with him and Jada Bell is the fact that Jada Bell had another lover, another paramour. Can you say Gemini? More than one? Also, I've heard, rumors that that Willie hits from both sides of the plate. Again, not judging here. It's not a judgment. It's just a rumor. That would also be Gemini, by the way. So he's got Mars in Virgo and Jupiter, Pluto conjunction. That's money. That's a big money aspect. And the guy's got a lot of money. Okay. He's rich. I don't think he's happy, but he's rich. And he's coming out of that. He's 1968. He's a monkey. See, he's a monkey. It's the year of the tigers. It's not good for monkeys this year. Monkey is Leo in Chinese astrology. Of course, the tiger is Aquarius. So if you're a monkey, pay extra close attention to your monkey-like outbursts, although the monkey is pretty tricky and clever. He wasn't tricky or clever enough. So he's got that Pluto-Uranus conjunction. Yes, I know. And he's got a Uranus-Sun conjunction as well. And it's out of sign. So he's going to be, look, they went back. He went back to the planet and he's sorry. He's sorry for killing the pterodactyl. Or is he trying to get back on the ship? Oh, he's trying to get back on the ship. He's like, you know what? I thought about it. I don't want to be here with these beautiful blonde women on Venus. Take me back to Earth and put me in handcuffs. Okay, so he's got that Sun-Uranus conjunction. And he also has a Sun-South Node conjunction. So he's got a weird thing to work out in relationship. And that's all fifth house. And this guy's restless. He's restless. And it's very early Libra, first decan. So he's charming. Will Smith can be very charming. And it's interesting because, theoretically with the South Node and Libra, he's really not supposed to be in relation, but he can't get out of it, right? He's got lessons to learn. He's got lessons in love, especially in the fifth house. And then we get into his just, overpopulated sixth house. Mercury, Venus, right at the edge of Libra, that 29th degree Libra, 28 degrees Mercury. So that's the via combusta, right? So he's going to get burned and singed. Anything that is dross-like, he's just going to get he's going to get it melted at the Via Combusta. Also, these things that he would utter, by the way, with Mercury and Venus, there's no distinction, right? So when he does this thing with Jada at the Academy Awards, well, now they're throwing rocks at the. Now they've turned. They've turned on their pet pterodactyl. What's that all about? That's what they do at Mecca. They throw the let's watch them. They throw the rocks at the stone in Mecca. It's called Shaitan. They throw rocks at Shaitan. So what did they do? They hit it so hard with those rocks that the head fell off. This movie's fucking weird. Now they're all bummed out. You need those men now. See, this is the problem here. It's exemplified in this movie. All these emotions with the ocean and everything. And now they're caring for the animal that they just killed by throwing all the rocks at that animal. Anyway, let's go back to Will Smith. That was compelling. It's almost like there's two movies in one here with this movie. Anyway, okay. Just like my show. The thing here is that when you have the Venus-Mercury conjunction, like you anytime you've got a planet that close, they're inseparable, right? So he couldn't help himself. He could not help himself when it came to speaking out, right? For Jada in that moment. He couldn't help himself. And there's also this inconjunct going on with, guess what? Chiron. It's got a Venus Chiron. That's so wild, you know? The Chiron inconjunct is like trying to make up. Like this, he's a Gen X guy with Chiron and Aries. This is exactly what I'm talking about. It's exactly what I'm talking about. He's trying to work out being a man again. Not a mannequin, but a man again. And what did he do? He tried to deal with this inconjunct with Venus and Chiron, right? By the degree. It's right there. Bada bing. Even Mercury's there too, right? It's in that 3-degree orb. So he was trying to get, I tell you right now, Will Smith, even though you may think it was prearranged and they got the alopecia thing and all the other shit that goes along with it, he was trying to reset his masculine nature. That's what he was trying to do. And it's right there. You could see the inconjunct. It's happening. That was all last week. That was Sunday night, right? And the moon was in Aquarius. Hello, right there. Bang. Where's Chris Rock? He's born February 7th. Where's his sun? It's right on Will Smith's midheaven. I can tell you that right now. I don't need a chart to look at it. It's on his midheaven. So the moon was passing over Chris Rock's sun, passing over Will Smith's midheaven. What happens when the moon hits the midheaven like that? It connects with people, with the masses. That's the 10th house. And that is the moon, the lunacy, and the madness on display for the masses. It was all right there. Trigger City. Bang. And then he's trying to do this reset with Chiron. He's doing exactly what I was talking about. He's like, I got to be a man again. How do I do that? And then on the other side of all this, he's got all this Scorpio stuff. He's got Moon and Scorpio, Neptune. He's got some intuitive ability. Well, I'd say Will Smith has some intuitive ability. He should be using it to help other people. With that Neptune trying to Chiron, this guy should be doing good works. Maybe he does. I don't know. Get out of the fucking Hollywood game. Go find God, Will. Not the bullshit version of God you were talking about at the Oscars. That was you. That was you. Dedicate your life to good works. Humble yourself. When you do that, this Chiron Neptune trine will kick in. The Moon Neptune trine will kick in. And you'll be redeemed. You'll find redemption. And guess what? Your true, Chiron's right there. It'll be redeemed. You'll find your manliness, right? You'll find your masculinity. You'll get your man card back again. But you'll do it with service unto others. It's not ego. This is not ego here. This is the ego with the sun. So what does he have? He's got a sun Chiron opposition. Where's his sun? It's at 3 degrees in Libra. He's like, nope, I'm over here. I got to go get my man card back. He does this from time to time. He slapped that guy who was some Romanian reporter or something, who kissed him. He slapped him. So he does this on occasion. He tries to get his man card back every, I don't know what, 3 or 4 years or so. And he also has, and most people have Chiron opposite Uranus, by the way. But it's the Chiron Sun opposition. Even Pluto Chiron, that's unusual. Pluto doesn't always oppose Chiron. So he's got that. Chiron's a big planet for Mr. Smith. Planetoid. And it's mostly challenged with the inconjunct and the oppositions, and the way out, the way to soothe that Chiron, abandon the ego, abandon it, do good works, and don't talk about it. Because that's the moon. The moon doesn't talk about it. Mercury talks about it, but not the moon. So he's got a classic what? It's not quite a zigzag seesaw chart. He's got a bucket chart. And Saturn, and maybe even Chiron, we can make a case. It's a wide spout from Chiron to Saturn, all the contents of the chart. And where is it? The 11th house. Friends, the internet, media. Yeah, he's a mess right now. And he really should be theoretically a healer, right? Chiron conjuncting his true node. He's got a lot of things to work out. He's got the partnership stuff, the unfinished business with relationship. And then this Neptune thing on his descendant, with deception, and we're going to have an open relationship, and all the things that go along with that. With Neptune there, Neptune on the descendant can definitely represent an open relationship. And by the way, it's probably open in both ways. It's not just, Jada saying that my entanglement. Speaking of Jada, let's bring her into the mix. Let's look at her chart. That's her and Will. She's very different than he is, obviously. And I have their composite chart too. We're going to get into all that shit. All right. I think this is Jada right here. Yeah, that's her. Okay. So Jada Pinkett Smith, how do I say this? I don't think she should have a family. That's not to say I want to take her kids away from her. We really wouldn't want to do that. But this is a chart that is not meant for a family. Plain and simple. Everything is above the horizon. She's got sun at 25 Virgo. Her midheaven is 18 Virgo. So she's got a sun midheaven conjunction. She's got a sun Pluto conjunction. She's born on a balsamic Virgo moon. And that's conjunct from midheaven. This is a public person. This is somebody who is all about being in the public eye. This is somebody who wants to be a star. And the Sun-Pluto conjunction is an obsession. It can be a compulsion to do that. And even with the moon in Virgo, which we know can be critical, and as a mother, she's more interested in being on display than being like a real mom, So what do we have down here in the 4th house, which is where she theoretically is supposed to be A mom, she's got Chiron. Hello, she's a Chiron in Aries. Gen Xer. Have we seen Jada at the school board meeting? No, I don't think so. But what's interesting here with Chiron in the fourth house in Aries, she's going through a Chiron return too. It's at 12 degrees. Look at that. I wonder if she's going to be able to stay in this marriage with Will Smith. I don't think she is. I don't think this marriage is going to make it because she's going through her Chiron return and she has to integrate. So, okay, there's two paths that she can take right now. She can either ditch everything up here and the image and her talk show or her Instagram, whatever the fuck she does, right? And she could theoretically be a mother, like just, okay, I'm done. I'm shutting everything down. And my Chiron return is going to bring me back into my home. And I'm going to be a fierce protector of my progeny or my whatever, right? She could theoretically do that. The other part here is that she would break off from her home and from her marriage and then focus on whatever's going on up here. Now, she also has Neptune, right? Neptune is opposing her midheaven, so it's going through her fourth house. This is the dissolution of the home. I don't think they're going to make it. That's my take here. There's too much. This chart is too top heavy. Again, the only way I think they could do it possibly is if she gives everything up. Right? If she gives everything up, she gives up her talk show, she gives up whatever, right? And literally becomes a recluse. Not a recluse, but just a regular folk, okay? I'm not sure if she can do that. The other thing, too, is that as Neptune continues to oppose Pluto, she's getting into the Neptune-Pluto opposition. And when that happens, you got to let go of something that's important to you. So maybe it's her home, maybe it's her kids, maybe it's her career, but it's going to happen along this axis, right? She can't do both. Like with this chart, she can't serve two masters. Because up here, she serves the master of fame. It's exactly what, by the way, she's not unintelligent. She's got Mercury in Virgo. It's conjunct Juno. And she's got a Mercury moon conjunction. There's also something very witchy about her. I've studied her face. Like I've looked at her eyes. There's something very witchy about Jada Pinkett. And you can see that here, right, with Moon and Sun and Pluto. It's like there's something very kind of, what's the word, alluring in a lot of ways, right? This is a woman that can cast a spell. Even if she's not casting the spell directly, like boiling frogs or whatever, she has that potential. Like Venus-Pluto conjunction, and Venus is in Libra. Yeah, that's very alluring, especially in the 10th house. So will she give all that stuff up? Because she's obviously getting something, right? She's getting something from all of her. And I'll be honest with you, she's kind of a minor star. She's maybe a B plus actress, more known in a lot of ways for her marriage with Will Smith and her escapades with young hip hop guys and her relationship with her strange kids. That's really what she's known more for. Maybe her heavy metal band. She's not known. I mean, you can see this up here, right? But something has to change. And she's got this true node Mars conjunction in Aquarius. She's got to play by her own fucking rules. You don't tell this woman what to do. I'm telling you that right now. Nope. She's got a Mars Uranus trine. She's going to sleep with whoever she wants with Venus Pluto conjunction. Forget it. You're not going to tell her what to do. This is a very independent person. And again, it's like, I think this is a chart that is made for somebody who wants to be in the world. Now, she does have Saturn over here. Remember Will Smith's Black Moon Lilith? It was right at the, I think, eight degrees. It's right on her Saturn. She rules that dude. I'm telling you right now, her Saturn is on his ascendant. She rules over Will Smith. I would say, whether it's intentional or not, there's a master-slave relationship going on. When I say master-slave, I'm not talking about roots, right? I'm talking about like bondage, power, exchange. Her Saturn is right on his ascendant and right in his Black Moon Lilith. She tells him what to do. And she's got Jupiter in Sagittarius on her ascendant. This woman is not going to be tied down. She does have this Saturn opposition to Jupiter. So she does have this thing going on with Saturn, but she can't be with just, maybe she's being forced to be with just one person with Saturn and Gemini. But that's not a lesson I think she's really willing to try to work out. She's got this Venus trying to, it's a Saturn in her chart, and her Venus is all up in the world, right? You're not going to tell her what to do. Period. End of story. He's got a Pluto, Jupiter sextile, just like Will does. He's got it. That's money. Like, good luck reining this woman in. I don't think, like, if you wanted to marry somebody like her and have a partnership with her, you better be ready for her to run the show. I'm just saying. Because of the Moon Pluto conjunction, Sun Pluto conjunction, Sun conjunct the midheaven, Venus Pluto conjunction, Jupiter in Sagittarius in the first house, Mars in Aquarius trying her true node. Like, good luck telling her what to do. That's not going to happen. So Will is definitely not the alpha even in that relationship. She is. Big time. She's got this grand trine. Right? She sets the law and she makes the rules. Mars trine Saturn. I'm not going to tell her what to do. Not at all. Interesting. Chiron in a wide in conjunct with the moon. Will had his moon. Guess what? His moon was trine Chiron. She's got an in conjunction. So she's trying to work out her emotional loyalty with whatever the fuck she wants to do. Chiron and everything. I'd be very surprised. So there's only two ways this oh, look, South Node on Neptune. And all this stuff is coming out. I don't know about this marriage. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think they're going to break up. This marriage could end. Especially down here. So again, it's going to go one of two ways. She's either going to renounce the world and just pull back from trying to be whatever she's trying to be and just be down here and, be in her house by the ocean with Neptune there and Pisces at 19 degrees. Or this is going to dissolve. It'll dissolve. So whatever trouble she has in the home is going to be amplified with Jupiter here. I'd be very surprised this marriage sticks. Just saying. This is a person. If you want to be involved with a person who is deeply involved in the world, right? This is the person you want to marry and be a partner with. But you better be ready to go along for their ride. Because it's their ride. And Will Smith may be the bigger star, but I can guarantee you right now, she is the bigger star in that household. Will Smith might have been the A-lister. She's the A-lister at home. She's running the show. All right, let's look at them together. So it's a little bit backwards here, but I'll show you. You can see it. So this is her Saturn. We saw that on her descendant. Look, that's Will Smith's ascendant right there. There's Black Moon Lilith. I'm telling you, she's running Will Smith. She is the Saturnian boss in that family. So if she wants to, have a little entanglement, she's going to have that entanglement with Gemini, right? And everything for her with him is in her 12th house. It's all hidden. It's all hidden. Moon, Neptune, Ceres, Juno. It's all 12th house. We don't see what's going on in that relationship. The real emotional content, which is dark, by the way. It is dark because that's the nature of Scorpio. There's no two ways about it. It's dark. This is like dungeon world over here. I'm telling you, this is dungeon world right there. 12th house. And maybe it is through Will Smith where she connects with that part of fortune and figures out that he is the emotional battery, for her kind of 12th house engagements. Because that's what's showing up here is the emotional battery. Now, Will Smith has Mars in Virgo, right? It's up here. And while it's not in a close conjunction, it is kind of a bit in a conjunction here. So he's kind of getting a little bit into the career stuff. Like, there's his sun, there's her Venus, right? So this isn't bad. But who's it going to benefit more? It's going to benefit her more because all of his planets are feeding into her planets at the top of the chart. Have they ever done a movie together? I don't know if they've ever done a movie. I'm not the biggest I know his movies and stuff. I usually don't watch them, by the way, because there's something about him that bugs me. I think it's because he did the Wild Wild West. I talked about that. Anyway, but his planets are going to what? They're going to strengthen hers. So any kind of juice that she got is coming from, like, in a lot of ways, it's coming from him. For him, her planets are in his 5th house. So he's going to get what? Children out of it. And maybe some love, whatever, 5th house. That could flip his switch, right? But at the end of the day, she's the beneficiary of all those planets coming into her 10th house. And even when she did a red table confession, right? She was the one that was benefited from him, not him. He wasn't the one saying, hey, I got to tell you, I had a little bit of a thing. And what would happen if he had done that and not her? Like, she caught a little flack from it, but he would have caught a hell of a lot more. I'm just saying. Right? Now, he has Venus and Mercury over here, 11th house. That's friends. Doesn't mean that if you're in a relationship, somebody's got their Venus in your 11th house that you can't be with them. I'm just saying. Right? So they might be friends. There could be a friend thing going on there. They might enjoy each other's company as friends. So a lot of his planets are lining up with her planets above the chart. Her planets line up with his planets below the horizon in his chart. Her south node is right on his IC. Right? If they had hired me as an astrologer, Will, if you'd hired me, I would have told you not to marry this woman and definitely don't have kids with her. That's that south node right in his. Some people can say, well, he's got unfinished business there. Yeah, how's that working out? You better clean that unfinished business up because this is not a great aspect. I'm just like, if somebody came to me and I saw that, and what do you think of this person? I go, you may want to just, have some intensity and maybe, some really good orgasms with that person and maybe move on, right? That's what you've been there and done that, man. You've been there and done that with this woman. What's interesting is that her true node is right on his midheaven. He's got nothing there, right? Oh, look at that. So her Mars, oh, fuck, this is amazing, right? Her Mars was conjunct the moon last week. Chris Rock's sun is right there. Jezebel. I'm not sure they're going to be able to make it. And even that South Node is in Leo, man. That's children. Technically speaking, she should be helping his career out. But that, Mars is hard there because it's conflict, like it's tension. It can be aggressive unless they do something together. I mean, this is a clear example that they should be doing more things together and less things apart. Right? Less Jada and heavy metal, red table, and less Will Smith going out and saving the Williams family. Save your own family. Save your own careers. That could work. Other than that, yeah. And look, even down here, right? There's this true node conjuncting her Chiron. So he's trying to figure out who he is as a man in relationship with her. And where was Chiron last weekend? Right there. This is amazing, right? So what we're seeing here is we're seeing two couples work their shit out during the Academy Awards. It's all there. And Chris Rock, by the way, is the catalyst. He is the catalyst. With his son on her Mars and that offhanded joke, whatever, not a big fucking deal. Now, with the midpoint composite, which is worth looking at. Even with the midpoint composite chart, it's not easy when you put their lives together. Pisces rising, true node in Pisces in the first house. So they're going to figure out like who they are together in a Piscean sort of way. But again, this is like confusing. This is a confusing ascendant. And especially when you go through like an Academy Award ceremony, that's very Piscean, right? So theoretically, they're there to blend and dissolve. And I mean, ultimately, maybe that's just what they're there to do. Ultimately, just to blend and dissolve. And the marriage and the partnership is supposed to blend and dissolve. But it's also about weird boundaries, threesomes or whatever they've got going on, right? There's weird boundaries with Pisces. Then over here, there's that South Node in the 7th house. This is not great for relationship. I'm just telling you, right? Again, if they came to me as an astrologer, I'd say, yeah, this is not a great relationship. Do what you're going to do and move on. And even here, like everything is all 8th house. So the problem here is getting out of the relationship because this is all fixed. These are all fixed planets here. And even with Pluto Sun conjunction, it's like till death do you part, or till, something comes along and rips you right out of that relationship, like transiting Neptune, opposing right there. It's getting close. What is that? Neptune's at what, 20, 23, 24 right now? So it's in opposition. I'm not sure they're going to make it. Neptune is already doing a number in their first house. And then look, here's Chiron. Bang, right? Chiron and Saturn. Again, kind of a weird like bucket. It's a weird bucket. And there's this thing between Chiron and Saturn being the authority, the ground, and Chiron being this everything in their chart is moving to Chiron. And what do we see? We saw this whole Chiron thing being worked out last weekend with Will Smith trying to get his Chiron back. Mars Neptune conjunction, top of the chart. That's tricky. Right? Sex. This is sex on display. This is interesting because this is where Mars gets dissolved and it's up there for everybody to see. Where are the boundaries? There are no boundaries. And ultimately, as a couple, they would go through something very confusing, right? Neptune, Mars. Neptune on the midheaven, which is what we saw. We saw a Neptune Mars moment last weekend. Where Saturn, transiting Saturn's over here, going through their midpoint composite 12th house. That's going to be hard for them. They may not make it. What did Saturn do? Transiting Saturn squared and is still squaring I think they're going to break up. I don't think they make it. Not with a Saturn Neptune square, unless they flip their lives, right? And they both just get out of Hollywood. And Will Smith kind of did some of that. Like he resigned from the Oscars because they were going to kick him off anyway. He resigned from that. And then Netflix. So he's being moved, right? He's being moved out of the public now. So he has more of an opportunity to get into that Moon Neptune conjunction, trying Chiron, and be more selfless. I don't think they're going to make it though, unless they could completely flip this Saturn square to Neptune. I think they're done. What's going to happen? Because Jada's a control freak with Pluto Sun conjunction in Virgo, and she's got that moon in a wide conjunction with Pluto, and that moon is supposed to be dissipative, balsamic, and letting go. She's not going to do that with a moon Pluto conjunction in her chart. That's really difficult, especially because she's on display for the rest of the world. I just don't think they're going to make it. Unless they change everything, they're not going to make it. Okay. Let's get into, what time is it? 10:40. So we've been going for about 2 hours. Let's get into this Saturn Neptune cycle. So I've got 3 Saturn Neptune cycles I want to talk about. And ultimately the one we're going to start off with Saturn Neptune in conjunction in the sign of Leo. So we're going to start there, and that's going to be in 1917. So this is 11/9, which is generally considered the official overthrow. I'm sorry, this is 1989. My bad. It is the official overthrow. We're going to get back to that one. That's an important one, but not the one we want. So I'm going back to August 1st. 11/9 is when the official overthrow of the former kingdom of the Tsar and the Tsaress of Russia. This is when it all falls apart, right? So this is where we get to the closest conjunction of Saturn Neptune. It's on August 1st of 1917. So by the 9th of November, it's done. Now, this has been going on for a while. They've been working on flipping Russia for a while, but it really picks up in 1917. This is the year. So what we see here is we see the dissolution, right? The dissolution of the structure. That's what Neptune brings to Saturn. And what do we have here? We have a monarchy. That's what Nicholas and Alexandra are. The Romanovs are a monarchy. And when Neptune and Saturn come into play here in the sign of Leo, it dissolves the monarchy. That's exactly what happens. It dissolves it. So what else is going on during that time? Well, we have Uranus and Aquarius. It's a revolutionary period, which we've talked about before. So the other side of Leo is Aquarius. And here we have Juno on the other side in Aquarius at that time. And it's like, hey, something new. But it's retrograde, so it's going to fuck up. Right? It's going to fuck up. It's not going to work. This new thing isn't really going to work, but hey, we got to do it anyway. Right? Because we need to set the table. We need to basically create the blueprint, the program. We got to see if we can get it done. And they get it done. So the monarchy dissolves. That's what Saturn Neptune does, right? And over here we have the output or the outcome of that, which is going to be Uranian and this new thing in Juno, but it's retrograde, so we know that it's not going to work. This is what happens with Saturn Neptune conjunctions. Systems get dissolved. So we see the dissolution of the monarchy. That's exactly what's going on here. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go to another, I think, important Saturn Neptune cycle. And this is in 1989. Here we see Saturn and Neptune in Capricorn. And this is 11/9, which is the anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution, when everything finally topples and they're like, okay, we're good. We're running the show now. So I chose this day. And so what was going on in 1989? Soviet Union was falling apart. It was dissolving. I'll show you. I'll show you exactly what was happening. We'll go into Wikipedia here in a minute, and I'll run through 1989. And you can see, like, there is this solvent that's taking place, right? The system is being dissolved. And prior, if you look at how the Soviet Union worked, right? They wanted to have this revolution, and they wanted to have it be egalitarian, no more king, no more queen. It'll be the people, which is Aquarian. But they couldn't run it. Like, they couldn't figure out how to do all the shit that they needed to do to stay alive as a country. So what did they do? They had to bring the United States in. The United States and England came in and helped reindustrialize Russia, right? So what happens? So you have the reindustrialization take place, and you have these companies and countries, this interesting kind of corporatization of the Soviet Union. Even though the Soviet Union itself wasn't incorporated, these corporations went in and they were running the industrialization of the Soviet Union. And why did they do that? Well, they wanted to manage it. They wanted to somehow manage. They wanted to get in and say, okay, well, we want to get these resources. We want to get anything that's in there. We want to be able to handle it, deal with it. We want it to be part of, our industrial output. So that's why they got involved. They were like, oh, well, they don't know how to do shit. Well, we'll go in and help them do shit. So that to me, that's Capricorn, right? These companies are coming in. And ultimately, where we are here at this point in time, we have this Uranus, Neptune conjunction, which is going to take place in Capricorn. So this Uranian energy is going to destabilize things. And we're going to see globalism, kind of emerge during this period of time. And this is exactly what happens to the Soviet Union. Like, the globalists come into play. They put McDonald's in Moscow. They do the same thing in China, right? So now this is what we're seeing, the dissolution, but we're also seeing the roots of the corporate state getting planted inside of the Soviet Union and or the People's Republic of China. That's exactly what's happening. And they're also the same thing that's dissolving those structures too. So corporations are playing the role of the solvent, right? If you go back and you look at the Russian Revolution, it wasn't the royalty, although maybe there were other royal families that were certainly encouraging the dissolution of the Romanovs. But it's the spirit of Leo, right? Which is, very egoic. And it's this egoic spirit, which is, well, we can run this. We can do better than you're doing. So let me take you back into 1989 and just to show you what was going on there. There they are, the women of Venus. You know what's really weird about this movie? As I've been watching it unfold, the men and the women aren't in the same scenes. Like, you don't see the men in the bubble heads interact with the women with the bubble bikinis, right? They're out there in bubblehead land. And it's almost like there's two movies going on here. It's really weird. All right, so let me get into 1989. Let me show you guys what was happening in 1989. Let's just go through this, right? Remember, Saturn-Neptune conjunction. It's going to go through the time trip here. Let's see what we got. Okay, so we see Cuban troops withdrawing from Angola. Finally, right? That's kind of this dissolution that we're talking about. Lexus and Infinity show up then. Good cars. All right, here we go. Right here. School shooting. They don't talk about that one, do they? The Polish United Workers' Party votes to legalize solidarity. It's starting, right? It's happening. Ted Bundy gets fried, theoretically. Embassy United States, Kabul, Afghanistan is closed. Doesn't open for until 2001. Let's see. Here we go. The last Soviet Union armored column leaves Kabul. And that's part of their dissolution. We got a coup d'etat in Paraguay, but we're not really interested in that. We're interested in what's going on. But the government of the People's Republic of Poland holds formal talks to represent a solidarity movement for the first time since 1981. So they're getting ready to dissolve the Soviet Union. This is what's happening. We got the Bhopal disaster in 1980. That was brutal. That was really brutal. That to me is a Saturn Neptune with the little Uranus in there, because you have Saturn, the corporation, and Neptune, right, which is a gas leak. Killed 3.7 thousand people, $470 million to the Indian government. How much do you think went to the people? Satanic verses. How about that? Here we go. So all the troops have left Afghanistan. They get to come home, lick their wounds. Winnie Mandela gets arrested. That's interesting. Well, really what we're looking at is anything that's connected to the Soviet Union, because I could be here all night, right? Let's see. The Politique Partige Radicalen Pacifisch Socialist Partige Communist Partige Nederland and Evangelical People's Party amalgamate to form the Dutch political party GroenLinks, or the Green Left. So we're seeing the formation of the dissolution of all these parties and the formation of one party. Iceland has Beer Day on March 1st. Did you know that? They put it back into motion there. That's a little Saturn-Neptune conjunction. All right, let's keep moving forward. There's a lot going on here. The revolutions of 1989. The Soviet Union submits to the jurisdiction of the World Court. That's an important piece right there, right? That's an important piece. Why is that important? Because I think at some point the United States is going to have to fucking probably submit to the jurisdiction of the World Court. I wouldn't doubt it. Wouldn't doubt it. I've talked about it. Mass demonstrations in Hungary demanding democracy. By the way, how much is this? Now that we know about color revolutions, regime changes, like how much is the CIA involved in all this? Probably a lot, actually, right? It's a lot. They're catching the Soviet Union kind of off guard a little bit, just coming home from the Afghan war. They're sowing the seeds of all this division inside of these former communist satellites, right? Poor Bob Hawke. Apparently he fucked up. National marital infidelity. I'm telling you, by the way, 320, isn't that Aries? It's getting pretty close to Aries there. Yeah, boy, this is totally Aries. Look at this. Clint Malarchuk of the NHL Buffalo Sabres suffers an almost fatal injury when another player accidentally slits his throat. That's back in the day when they used to sharpen their hockey sticks. Did you know that? Oh, yeah. That's some Aries shit right there. Look at that. Buffalo Sabre. The Socialist Republic of Serbia passes constitutional changes revoking the autonomy of the Socialist Autonomous Province of Kosovo. So they're going through. Oh, look at this. Now we got the man, 1989. What a fucking year. We got the the Saturn Neptune conjunction. We have Bhopal. We have that's some Saturn Neptune shit right there. Spilling oil in Alaska, Prince William Sound. The captain was drunk. This is astrology right here. Right? There it is. March 24th. On the way to Long Beach. Let's see. Oh, Jodie Foster won her first award for Best Actress. What did she win it for? 89. Alicia. Did you know Alicia was her name? I didn't know that. All right. What else do we have here? You can see what's going on. Polish government, Solidarity Trade Union, signed an agreement, restoring solidarity legal. The whole thing is beginning to just melt, right? Beginning to melt. We have the Tiananmen Square moment. That's 1989. This is all happening. Hu ya bang. Hu ya bang. That's what Will Smith said to Jada. Hu ya bang. The former general secretary of the Communist Party, by the way, I had to restrain myself from laughing at that. The former general secretary of the Communist Party of China dies. The public reaction to his death spawned a chain of events which led to Tiananmen Square. Everything's falling apart here, right? It's all dissolving. Everything's dissolving. The Valdez. What's that guy's name? Joseph, what's his name? I used to know his name. Unless he uses stuff a lot of times. Now it's bugging me. Who's the captain? He was drunk. Joseph Hazelwood. What's his sign? He's a Libra. Born September 25th. Just one day before September 25th. Will Smith's birthday. He's still alive. He's a maritime consultant now. Okay. Show you what not to do. In the 1995 film Waterworld, Hazelwood was anointed the patron saint of the movie's villain, the Deacon, leader of the Smokers, a band of scavenging raiders. The film displayed Hazelwood's portrait prominently above their flagship, called the Exxon Valdez. The ship seemed to have a large stockpile of booze, as the Deacon is seen holding an old Jack and Daniels bottle. Isn't that Dennis Hopper? Joseph Hazelwood. 1989, there's a lot of shit going on. First crack in the Iron Curtain, right there. Look at that. The first McDonald's restaurant in the USSR. Construction in Moscow. See, that is your solvent right there. That is your Saturn Neptune corporate solvent. Globalism is the solvent here. Now Bush is going to send his thugs to Panama. That's a black mark in American history. You got the Tiananmen protests happening. So instead of actually sending troops to where he should have sent them, to China, to help those people, he sent them to Panama to bring back Manuel Noriega, because Manuel Noriega was going to spill the beans on Bush and all the cocaine money. All right, what else we have? We got food riots and looting. Here we go. The Tiananmen Square protest happens during Gemini. The goddess of democracy statues. And how is that not also some kind of weird regime change thing? It has to be. So you can see what's going on in 1989, right? I don't have to spend a lot more time here, but that's the dissolution, right? Saturn, Neptune. After that, former Soviet Union, bye bye. And then, of course, the globalists come in. They spent half the time in this movie lamenting over these animals that somehow get zapped by these dudes. This might be one of the worst movies of all time, by the way. It's pretty bad, but I wanted something different tonight. I got it, didn't I? Okay. Let's look at one more chart and then we're going to get out of here. And this is the chart for the U.S. I have this chart titled The U.S. Revolution. Now, I have March 1st, 2026. So that's just a little over 4 years from now, right? So what do we have here? The dissolution of a system. But it's also Aries. So it's the individual. And what's going to happen? How is this going to impact and affect the United States? This is, to me, there's this idea that the what we know as the individual, the human being, that the revolution is, but there's a couple different, I think, potentials for this. The revolution has to do with the revolution that's connected to things like transhumanism. Like the whole idea of what a human is just goes bye-bye. I mean, look at the degree here, right? Because this is, you'll see Saturn and Neptune, right? When Neptune is at, I think, 0 Aries, Saturn is at the final degree of Pisces. So by the time Saturn gets into Aries, Neptune is at 1 degree. So there's that conjunction, but we don't, it's there, but we don't get it like as close to exact as say here. So you could probably go to what, maybe February 8th or something like that, February 28th. Will that be a leap year? Let me see. That's going to be the year of the dragon. No, it won't be. Leap years are usually the year of the rat. Anyway, so, but look at the number. It's 1, right? And 1 is the number for Aries. It's the first sign. It's the astrological new year. So theoretically, this is the indoctrination of a new time. So how is this spring going to turn out? Is it going to be a revolution of the human spirit? Are people going to finally stand up and those structures that the Saturnian authority in is going to be dissolved? And are people going to, pick up the flag here? Mars is way back here. It's at 29 Aquarius. And eventually what'll happen is it'll catch up, right? So by the time, Mars moves into Aries, Saturn may be off a little bit. I'd have to move it out. Saturn may be at maybe 4 degrees, 5 degrees. So Mars will catch up. And when we get that Mars, Neptune, Saturn conjunction, probably sometime in April, a little bit longer than that. May. I'd have to go back and look at it. But this is really what I wanted to look at because this is a big time. Big time. It'll be halfway. So that's 6 years from now. 4 years from now. My bad, 4 years from now. It would be 6 years from 2020, right? And then 2 years out from whatever theoretical election we're having in 2024. I think this is significant. Like this is going to be a very different world. And there's going to be a ton that will go on between now and then. So this is actually the dissolution of the end of this period and cycle that we're in. And maybe some order emerges from this chaotic time. But what that order is, it's going to be on the whims of the authority, theoretically. Or this could be the beginning of something new other than that order, right? Something's dissolving and something's being born simultaneously here. I think it's a very interesting time. And we can basically chunk off, 2022 to 2026 as this interregnum in this period filled with like intense chaos. And something changes and shifts here. And there's either simultaneously a dissolution of an old order and the beginning of a new one, which can happen, right? But how it's going to look will be interesting because it's predicated upon the individual or this idea of the new spirit of an individual. It's a very interesting time. And then from 2026 to 2029, as we close out the 2020s and we move into that 2029 period, we're finally, we're dealing with, Saturn coming into the end of 2029, Saturn coming into Taurus, which is our first land activity, right? Uranus here is getting ready to move into Gemini, and things are going to get weird, really weird. So the final degrees of Taurus, look at that, 27 degrees. But I've just shown you two examples of the Neptune-Saturn conjunction. We saw the dissolution of the Soviet Union, or the Romanovs, and then the birth of the Soviet Union. And then we go into the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Capricorn, and we see the corporations are the ones that they're making the moves. And they're dissolving, at least theoretically, in the Soviet Union, they're dissolving the Soviet Union. And out of that, you have whatever we have that was formed up until today, right? So now we're seeing this, which is a harbinger of dissolution or dissolving the structure and the order that has been in chaos and flux. To me, this is a simultaneous birth of something new and then the end of something old, right? There's the end of an old order. There's the beginning of a new order. That's happening here. How and what it looks like it's up for grabs in a lot of ways, right? Pluto will already be in Aquarius and deep Aquarius at that point, 4 degrees, first decan, will have been in there for 2 years. So we're already living in this Plutonian Aquarian world where technology will transform things, hopefully, in ways that are, not about, total surveillance and the Internet of Things and all that shit. But I think this is an interesting time. And to me, it actually speaks to the potential that we have as individuals. We actually may have. So here's what I think. We'll either have more power or less power here, but it won't be in between. It won't be like now where we have kind of neither, right? So there's either complete and utter submission, and there's this sense and idea that we're part of a new thing. Of course, when we get into Neptune, there's sacrifice involved, right? So there's that could be part of it. But there's also the potential here for this new birth of humanity and people taking responsibility for their identity, for their creations. So to me, this is an interesting time. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad time. I think the harder time is what's going to happen between now and this time. That'll be the hard time. Between 2022 and 2020, this 4-year stretch. Something new is going to come out of this, whether, we like it or we're ready for it or not. And let's hope. Right. Let's hope, especially when Uranus moves into Gemini, that it's a bit more novel and a bit more inventive. And to some degree, Uranus kicks in and there's a little more freedom involved too. It's going to be an interesting. I'm not looking at this and, oh my God, we're going to be under the heel of a totally fucking fascistic, world that is supposedly also, beneficent, right? This would be beneficent fascism, and especially in Aries. I'm looking at it in a slightly different context, that this is in some ways the spring of a new humanity. And that if we're in the right place, right, literally, figuratively, in the right place. And by the way, with Chiron in Aries right now, people can work up to this. And I think here, Chiron is still in Aries. Look at that. 2026, Chiron is still in Aries. It would have been past, like it's not, there's no way it's going to be in that conjunction, right? That's a long Chiron trip. And right here, 20 degrees, 4 degrees off of that, it's conjunct the United States Chiron. That's the United States Chiron return. So that'll happen at the beginning of 2026. Oh boy. That'll be very intense. No Earth. This is what's going to happen, right? You're not going to get any Earth. Like the only Earth you have is what? Uranus, right? That's it. And once Uranus goes into Gemini, you're not going to see any Earth in the sky until Saturn goes all the way through Aries. That's 3 years. 3 years from there, 2029, it hits Saturn, and that's the ground of the new land. You know, Earth. This period here, right here. Even Uranus and Taurus isn't really stable Earth, but there will be no Earth in any of the outer planets. Jupiter, what hits Virgo? What we got? That's a year, but a year and a half. So 2.5 years. You get Jupiter and Virgo. But you're not going to get any stabilizing Earth until Saturn goes into Taurus, and it will be stabilizing. That's how Saturn works, right? It'll go all the way through Aries. It'll be molten. You know, structures are going to dissolve. New structures will form. And finally, when Saturn hits Taurus, we have ground. We have land. We have something to sink a flag into. Look, it's kind of like that in the background. Anyway, this is an interesting time. It's the precursor. It is the new time. It is the precursor to the time when we eventually sink our feet into the new soil or the soil of a new creation. So we have this chaos period between 2022 and 2026. We have this dissolving and this interesting unification happening simultaneously. Then we have the crazy 7-year cycle of Uranus in Gemini. And off the bat, it starts to trine Pluto, right? And that could be an amazing technological period, as long as we have a bit of a say in it. That's just me. I come out of a time when individuals like to have a say in things. So anyway, there's your map. But it's the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, that which dissolves structures and orders. We've seen it. All right. And with that, I'm ready to dissolve the structure and the order for tonight. Thank you for being here, talking a little Will and Jada, getting a little clickbaity, and talk a little Chiron and Aries, and clearly, you know, the path to the future with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, because the map of the past clearly illustrates what happens. All right. Thank you, everybody. Love to each and every one of you. Let me just jam back in here to chat. Say good night to everyone. There we go. A lot of Jada talk. A lot of Jada will talk tonight. I knew they'd get some clicks. I'll check out the Marquise de Sade's chart next week. We'll do that. What an evil chart. What an evil chart he has. All right. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to set what's possible. I am going to take tomorrow off because I really have to roll up my sleeves and just get into my email and start answering email to people. I do my best, and I get fucking shanghaied. Technology has not been my friend since Uranus went into Taurus. I'm just saying. It's supposed to be helping me out. Anyway, love you all. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. If you want to book a reading with me, go to robertphoenix.com, and I will get back to you. I promise that. For all you people who've done that, I promise I will get back to you Tomorrow, it's going to be me and the laptop. I'm going to chain myself to it. All right. Take care. Bye for now.